we are going to try to explain the paper of the predictive capacity of the duration of a cycle. This is a paper that continues the research done by the main investigator of the paper, Professor Ferruz of Zaragoza University in the past, that was also presented in this Knowledge Congress. First of all, we have to explain that this is a very long data exercise. First, we took data from the Dow Jones Index daily. In the case of Dow Jones, we have the problem of data being not exactly coherent before and after 1896. But finally, we were able to construct a database that went till 1885. Till today, almost, the data was closed only 1 week before the Congress. With this, we calculate annual returns using logarithms. And of course, the idea was to calculate annual returns. Why annual returns? Because we consider that this is in accordance with literature of this kind of research, and also because it's a normal indicator also in the, for example, in explaining or explaining the performance to clients, for example, in mutual funds or in many other aspects. After this, we calculated the cumulative consecutive days of either positive or negative returns. That means when we have a positive trend in the market, normally annual returns will continuously be positive, and so we did with negative. That permitted us to depict the normal usual length of either uh, positive or negative cycle. We took the decision of skipping, and you will see why, the trends with less than 20 days. These trends, there were around 10% of total trends were having this kind of length. And we discovered that were moments of doubt in the markets when there was a shift in the trend that lasted a few days, and normally the market came back to the previous trend. So we skip it, and we obtain, I'm going to show you right now, very similar results. Here on the left, you have results with all the data, and on the right, you have the results with only cycles with more than 20 days. As you see there, the average, of course, tends to be a little bit longer in the second case. But for example, maximum and standard deviation were quite similar, pointing out to the fact that it might be considered that skipping this data would have improved a little bit our database. Once we did this, we could depict these cycles. Remember that we have skipped the 20 or less trends. As you see, very few moments in time you have these trends equals to 0. The first thing, of course, as we see here, and of course with the data, is that there's a strong evidence that the markets tend to have more length in the positive outcome. The average is 218 days with all the data, 267 only with more than 20 days. And of course, the maximum trend went up to 900, taking into account that usual years in a market, normal seasons, are around 250. That means almost 4 years. That will be the maximum length of positive, if you prefer, bullish trend towards a maximum of 733 in the case of a negative trend. So around 3 years. So this is the first thing that we obtain, a certain information that the positive trends will be longer. Also, we have this this data of the standard deviation that points out that the length of positive trends tends to be much more volatile than the negative ones. And this is something that is very interesting. And you see in the chart here how negative trends tend to have less volatility, and they are much more similar than positive ones. You have very short positive trends and very long ones. You have, for example, at least 5 times in time when the positive trend went beyond 800 days. The first thing that we wanted, after, of course, depicting what was this data, how they were, how volatile was the average, we tried to depict if something that is quite straightforward, but has to be tested, of course, if it's normal that after a positive trend comes a negative one, or the other way around. As you see here, the data suggests that this is true. A positive trend followed by negative has a 32% probabilities according to our sample. And in the case of negative followed by positive is 31. So that means that it's a 63, almost 64% probabilities, and randomly it will be 50. So this is something that is, I think, quite interesting. We made some tests in order to test if both data series have the same average. So I mean, positive, or negative, trends follow one by each other, or shifting the trend. And the outcome that the average was different. And finally, that it was possible to state that the most possible outcome was the shifting of positive and negative trends. As you see there, the probability of two continuous negative or positive trends, so not shifting one trend, the bullish trend or the bearish trend after the shift has come, is only 18% in each case. So that means that it is quite interesting. As you see, this is something that we can see more or less in the charts. As we see, the normal outcome is that after one positive trend comes a negative, or the other way around. But after making these kind of statements, we have to depict what was the positive prediction of what is happening after a trend changes. So, for example, if I had a very long trend, negative, for example, what is the next trend, the next cycle going to be? And we came to the conclusion that the length, using positive or negative numbers, so negative when it's a negative trend, positive when it's a positive one, is less than 4%. So that means that we can predict more or less that after a bullish trend will come with a 2/3 probability the other sign trend, but we cannot predict how long it's going to be. If we use absolute values, so we try to explain the length of next cycle using only the length of previous cycle, the capacity of prediction comes almost to zero. So that means that we have obtained several conclusions that, in our opinion, might be interesting. The first one is that there's a strong evidence towards the difference in length of positive and negative cycles. The second one is that there's a clear bias towards the alternance of positive and negative cycles beyond the random walk in the long run. So it would not be exactly random walk in the long run, as it would be more probable shifting in the trends, but still the probability of having the possibility of predicting how long the next cycle is going to be is almost zero. It's almost inexistent. So I hope that you enjoy this small video. See you in the Congress.